Batra Daf, Samach Aleph, Amur Aleph, new perek. Mocher Tavayat, someone sells a house. He says, I'm selling you a house. He did not sell the annex, which is like the kind of like a separate room that attaches to the house, like I could say a guest house. Even if it opens up into the house, it's not automatically included if you didn't specify it. Below the حدة شلتين and not even the storage room that's attached to the back of the house. Below it بزمن שיש له معك قبوة عصر فهمين if it has a roof that has a wall around it 10 tefachim high, that's considered like a separate part of the house, and it's also not part of the sale. The Rebbe says, the door roof has a doorway that's provided from the house. Even if it's not 10 tefachim high, in a machor, it's not sold. That doorway is like a separate, makes it a separate entity, and therefore it doesn't have to be 10 tefachim high. Okay. We mentioned Yatzia as the annex. My Yatzia, what does it mean Yatzia? Over here in Bavel, they explained it like a chamber. Rabbi Sefer America says Bidka Halila, like a veranda, which is more like a sunroom. So after law, according to my opinion, that holds that it means like a chamber, like a separate room. It's not sold included in a house. So for sure, a veranda, which verandas looks with sunroom is less like a house than a separate room like a chamber is. So that's definitely not sold. But according to my opinion, that it's a veranda, it's like a separate type of cabana, like that's not included. But even though an attached chamber is considered part of the house and it would be included. Okay. Tanya Rebbe says, the annex room has three separate names that we'll see in the Torah. Yatzia, Tzela, and Ta. Yatzia, the Pasuk says Yatzia, Hayatzia, Ta'zuna, Hamesh Ba'amar, Rahba. The lower annex, which is a Pasuk that we see in the Bet HaMikdash built by Shlomo HaMelech, there were separate chambers attached to the Bet HaMikdash, and it is the when we're talking about it, it referred to as the Yatzia. Tzela, the word Tzela also is seen as an annex, is also written in a pasuk in the vision for the third Bet Hamikdash. It says, they'll have this type of measurements. Crazy how we already have the measurements. The word ta also considered an annex. Also referring to the Bet Hamikdash, the third one, which is similar to the first one. A different answer, a different word of ta. The back part of the wall, the was 6 amot thick, and the cell behind the mechal, the room behind the mechal, was 6 amot. And the wall was 5 thick. Okay. When it says that the annex is not part of the sale, that means it has to be 4 amot squared big. If it's less than that, that's considered definitely part of the house. It's not hashub enough. It's not significant enough to be considered not part of the house. Okay. According to you, that you just said that you need to have 4 amot to be considered excluded from the sale. That's the case. Regarding a pit, in general, you're selling a pit. Tom Mishnah says, Lo et habor v'lo tadut. Someone's selling a house, and you didn't specify what's in the sale. The pit or the water pit inside the property is not sold. Even if you wrote in the sale document that I'm selling the house with the depth and the height. Does that mean also that it has to be talking about a pit that's 4 amot big? Otherwise, it's not. If it's not, it's considered part of the sale. But in general, pits are not 4 amot squared, so they should automatically be sold. But we know they're not sold automatically. So what's going on? Where it says, you can't compare a pit to the separate room. In regarding to a pit, it's definitely not considered sold, definitely independent. It's definitely not considered part of the sale because it's two different things. I'm selling you a house. I'm not selling you the pit outside. Two different types of items. Here in our Mishnah, the Hidush is that the room that's attached to the house, a room is literally part of a house, and still it's not sold. And therefore we have a dalat hashib, and therefore it's considered, if it's 4 amot big enough, then it's considered a separate entity, and therefore it's not sold. V'lo lo hashib, and if it's not 4 amot, it's not considered significant, and it is part of the sale. Mashe'enken does not apply to a pit. Okay. Also the storage house, that's not considered part of the sale. The Gemara says, if you told me in the Mishnah that the annex is not sold, which is a room, so a storage house in the back of the house they used to have, definitely not considered sold. If a room, which is more like a house, is not sold as part of the sale of the house, then for sure not a storage room. Even in a case where the in the sale document he wrote boundaries, and the boundaries encompassed including the storage room. Even in that case, the storage room is not included. Why? If someone sold his a house, which is like an apartment in a large apartment complex, even if he made the boundaries in the document larger than the entire building, he was just showing him the boundaries of the building. He wasn't including anything else, and he just sold that apartment. So it's over here regarding the storage room. Even if the storage room is inside the drawing of the boundaries, it's not included. Massive hidush. So imagine telling that to a lawyer nowadays. Okay, now what's the case of Rahman? If I mention in the case of the apartment building, where if I say a house means a house, an apartment means a house, and an apartment building means a building, Pshita, of course. If I told him selling the house, I didn't tell you I'm not selling the whole building. Why would you think I'm selling the whole building? But if you tell the case where the house is also considered an apartment building, then maybe he did sell him the whole thing. Why would you think he did not sell him the whole thing? So what's the case of Nachman? Gemara says no. You need to explain the case. Most people refer to the apartment as a house and an apartment building as a building. And what's the hidush is that even though there are some people who refer to the building as a house, therefore you might think the seller sold the whole thing. Therefore, Nachman's hidush is he teaches us he should have, if he wanted to sell the whole thing, he should have specified in the document, I am not leaving myself anything. I retain nothing from this property. Look at that, he didn't write that. Therefore, therefore must be that he left himself the rest of the complex. Okay. If someone sold a friend, if someone sold to his friend, he didn't sell his friend. Someone sold his friend a field in a large valley. So the valley has a lot of fields. So I'm selling you a field. Even if I wrote large boundaries in it, that's just an extension of the boundaries. I obviously intended to say one field and not the entire valley of fields. Same type of scenario. We're gonna have this a couple times. What's the scenario? If I have sold you a field and people refer to it as a field and a valley as valley, pshita, obviously. So I sold you a field, not the whole valley. Now, if you tell me the case where people refer to the valley as a field as well, then maybe if you wrote the boundaries with the whole valley, then you saw the whole valley. So what's the answer? No, same similar concept. Refer to a case it's referring to a case where people refer to the field as a field and the plain and the valley as a valley. Then also people refer to the plain as a field, to the valley as a field. And therefore, you might think, I sold you the whole valley. Therefore, Rahman teaches us that the guy should have written and specified a document that if you wanted to sell the whole thing, I'm not retaining anything. And since he did not write that, therefore it must be that he only sold me the field and not the whole valley. Now, how can we have two cases of the store of the field and the apartment building? Why do you have two separate cases teaching the same exact thing? That I should have written, I'm not leaving anything for myself. Why need two separate cases, the valley and the apartment building? Need both cases. The Ashman by only mentioned the case of the apartment building, because in that case, the apartment building is referring to a building that has like a lobby and a whole entrance, and therefore, technically, I'm sending you an apartment where you're sleeping in, like a living apartment, a dwelling, versus a lobby. Therefore, you might think it's not included. Maybe in the case of the valley where all the fields have the same function, Maybe you might think over there, I did say the whole thing. Therefore, I have to mention that case. I only mentioned the case of the valley. Mentioned the law because the guy I didn't have good boundaries to draw you. I didn't know how to draw one field in the middle of a field. How do you draw a field in the middle of acres of land? You can't do that. And therefore, Avabayit, I have a case of an apartment where the guy should have done a good boundary, not written the whole thing, but just the apartment. But Lama didn't do it. I think he's on the whole thing. Therefore, it teaches us both cases. It's not included. Okay. Kiman Azlan. Whose opinion do we hold? We're going to see reinforced by Nachman. حد مرة بناري بدري تبعت وش مواد مش متربيان. أيمن زنزري من قلا حفرس من صدر his friend. صريح من هذا he must write to him. لو شريت بزبني other end كلمة who holds that I have to specify in document that I'm not retaining anything. كمان كلا نحن برا أبو غوزر الرحمن who holds that in order to sell something in completion you have to write I don't hold anything left, and if you don't write that he's obviously holding something back. Okay. أول ما أزور حدث to his friend على عاد تبيع حياد مزين لك. I'm selling you the land of the house of Hiya. The Hiya, it used to belong to Rabbi Hiya. However, حفظت أتذهب بالمتكلم Rabbi Hiya. Rabbi Hiya used to own two lands, and both lands that he used to own were known as the house of Rabbi Hiya. He used to live on East 10th Street, now he lives on East 9th Street, and then he moved to East 8th Street. But the houses on East 9th and 10th are still known. Oh, that was Rabbi Hiya's house. So now a guy sold it to his friend, Rabbi Hiya's house. So now what's going on? Is he referring 10 or 9? Or maybe both. If he used, I'm selling you a land, therefore he's definitely not selling the 9th and 10th. If I said I'm selling you lands, the minimum of lands is 2. And therefore, I have to sell them both 9 and 10. If I said all, has to sell all the lands. The bottom mid, there was excluding gardens and vineyards. Right now, we're only referring to houses, but not garden and vineyards. Zihara, but if it's zihara is a type of word for complete real estate. The guy acquired even the garden and vineyards, but not houses and slaves. But I'm selling you all the property of Rabbi even the houses and slaves that used to belong to him are included because that is more all encompassing.